All right, my empowered tribe. Welcome back to another week of Level Up with Emma. So on the last podcast episode last week, I was telling you guys how it was my birthday coming up and that I had some really exciting stuff happening and that I was going to reveal all on next week's podcast. Well, this is that podcast. So yes, I have turned another year old. I'm now 32 years old. Am I freaking out? No, I'm definitely not one of these that sees 30 as being a freak out time and then it all goes downhill from then. I see the 30s as being really young still. And, everyone always tells me how the 30s are the best years of your life. So, you know what? I'm holding on to that. I'm clutching on to that. But so far, so good. I can't complain. So we'll see. What did I get up to this year? Okay. Well, the reason why I wanted to hold off and talk about it in this episode is because for my birthday, I did something very unusual this year. And it's something that I don't think I would have ever said that I would ever do in my entire lifetime a few years ago. Now, I guess it's a little bit different. Maybe I would. What I did on my birthday is something that certainly my younger self would have never, ever imagined herself being brave or confident or courageous enough to do. And so that's why I wanted to speak about it today, because it was really quite a big kind of, not a turning point, but I guess a big milestone that I want to be able to acknowledge and reflect on. And hopefully my experience, if I can share that with you, then maybe there's something that you can get out of this as well, whether it's a little bit of motivation or a little nudge to go and try something yourself. So let me explain what happened. The other week, I was on Facebook scrolling, as I like to do, too much, and I came across a post within the expat group of where I'm living currently in Thailand that was looking for some extras for a film being produced here on the island. And normally I would just scroll past this kind of stuff and be like, okay, whatever, that's not me. However, I, as you know, am on this little bit of an exploration with myself and, jumping up to opportunities that come my way and kind of sticking on this yes vibe and just seeing what happens. And the reason why I'm doing this is because I spent many of my years really feeling trapped and held back by fear, low confidence, anxiety. And so I've got to a point now in my life where I have been able to build up enough courage to be able to just start throwing myself at things. And then the more things that I do, the more brave and confident I get. And, it all goes up from there. So, like I say, I saw this post. Old me would have just ignored it. New me was like, this is really interesting. Being an extra for a film. This is something that I've never done before. I did drama at school. When I'm saying school, I'm on about high school. So I'm talking like years and years ago, 20 years ago. And I don't remember any of my drama lessons being a positive experience as such. I remember them being really intimidating. And honestly, I don't actually know why I chose drama. I think I chose it because it seemed like the easiest subject to do. It was easier than, a language or science. So I think that's why I chose it. And because my friends were in that class as well. But I never really enjoyed it. I always found it really challenging. And it wasn't long after that the blushing really kicked in for me. So for those of you who are maybe new to the podcast or have talks about my previous younger years, I still am, but not as much, but I used to be an extreme blusher. So anytime that I had to speak in a meeting at work, or I got asked a question on the spot that I wasn't sure I could answer, or someone tried to sort of have a joke, taking the mickey out of me in front of other people, I would go bright red. Or if the teacher would ask a question in class and say, Emma, what are your thoughts? I would go bright red. And I'm talking really really bright red. Like, you can't hide it with makeup. You can't hide it with anything. And I tried. I used to buy this green makeup base, and it was from number 7, I think. And I would put this all over my face in hopes that it would tone down the red. And I used to put so much on that I think my face actually ended up having quite a green tint to it. But it still didn't stop the blushing, because the blushing was so extreme. And then I would have anxiety with this, and my heart would race, my palms would sweat, my back would sweat, my everything would shake, my voice would break. And at this point, I would just think, right, what can I do to excuse myself and get myself out of this situation, or leave the room, or whatever? So going from living in that kind of way to then seeing this post and being a little bit excited by it is a huge turning point. Massive, because like I say, I would have just ignored it before. So I saw this post and I replied to it and I said, I'm interested. And I got the details of what I needed to do to apply. I applied. Now, I didn't hear anything for a few days, and I started panicking, and I was like, oh, all the self-doubt started flooding in again. And I was like, why have I done this? I'm not what they're looking for. I'm not that kind of person. I don't have that talent. I don't look that certain way. They're not going to want me on there. They're probably laughing at me even applying, and I feel like an idiot, blah, blah, blah. So my head kind of spiraled a little bit, and then I just forgot about it, and I just kind of moved on and forgot that I even applied. And then I got a response saying, hey, are you available on these days? And one of the days was my birthday. Now, at this point, I didn't have any plans. So I was just like, I'm free. And even if I had plans, I would have probably cancelled, because like I said, this is like a huge thing for me to participate in. So it was rough. The first day was 12 hours. The second day was 8 hours, and we were outside all day. I got mosquito bites everywhere. And, the pay isn't that good with these things, but that's not what it was about, because for me, it was really about the experience and putting myself into an experience that previously would have really been so overwhelming that I wouldn't have even done it. But I knew that this one would challenge me, and that's why I wanted to do it, because with challenge comes growth and also opportunity. So this is how I spent my birthday. I started at, I think it was 4 p.m. and I was there up until about 11 p.m. at night. And it was great. It was for a German mini-series that they're filming here. So there was a lot of us there, and I had to play various roles. I think I was 3 different wives in the end, a tourist, and I got to sit in a pool for an hour, and then I had to play a survivor. So I got to do quite a variety of roles, really. And I also got to have the makeup done and dress up in some horrendous clothes I would never wear myself on a holiday. So yeah, it was really, really good fun. It was such a good laugh, and I met some really great people there as well. But the crazy thing is that when I actually got there, and when I actually got on set that first time, I was nervous. Yes, of course I was nervous. And there was a little bit of me that was thinking, fuck, what have I done? Like, what have I thrown myself into here? And I did spend maybe the first 30, 40 minutes sat on my own, not knowing whether I should go and approach anyone or speak to anyone. And I felt a little bit awkward and a little bit out of place. I really did. And then I got chatting to someone nearby, and this person happened to be from the UK as well. So we had that in common, and we got chatting, and that helped me to relax massively. More people started arriving. I got to speak to more people. And then I kind of just then slipped into this whatever mindset, which personally I think is like one of the best mindsets that you can be in when it comes to doing something that you would view as being quite challenging normally. And this continued all the way through, even on the parts where I had to be separated from people and do something a little bit solo. Having this mindset really just kind of helped me to be present in the moment, to think about the here and now, and to stop worrying about whether I'm going to be good enough or what am I going to have to do next. I was just kind of in the flow and going along with what needed to happen at that time. This was great because my usual anxiety just went. Like, I just didn't notice it. I didn't feel it. There was never a time when I blushed. There was never a time when I felt so panicked and nervous. I was shaking and my voice was breaking. There was none of this whatsoever. I was just purely enjoying myself. And there was an element of wanting to know more and explore what I could or couldn't do as well. And so, yeah, I just, I stuck in this flow and it was great. I loved it so much that I have applied for more work this week in this similar kind of role, and I've joined some groups in Bangkok, which we are due to move at the end of the month, because I think this is something that I would really like to pursue and to keep having a go at where possible. So my initial concern of, I don't know if this is me, I don't know if I'm going to be good enough, all those kind of thoughts have now been replaced with, I wonder what else I can do. I wonder if there's anything like this out in Bangkok that I can do when I get out there. So that fear has been changed into curiosity. And I think this is really, really key. If we can replace our fears with curiosity, we are much more likely to be able to take action on the things that scare us and that challenge us, the things that are also going to be the things that level us up. You see, there's a few things that really fall into this from how I used to view these kind of opportunities when I was younger. So there was self-doubt in there, a lack of confidence for sure. There was fear taking over and anxiety, fear of the unknown, not knowing what was going to happen. And there was a lack of bravery. I wasn't courageous enough. I was happy in my little safe bubble and not wanting to ever step out of that. And if we look at all of these three things, self-doubt, fear, I think it's easy to see how someone can end up so trapped and never take action on their goals and their desires, especially if those goals are outside of our comfort zone or if they are in unfamiliar territories. So what happened here? How did I go from the girl that I used to be a few years ago, where I would blush and get overwhelmed and anxious and feel like an idiot and just want to run away and hide and never see anyone again? How did I go from that to this woman who is now seeking opportunities and hunting down experiences that previously would have caused so much internal pain? What happened? Like, what is that switch? It really got me thinking these past few days because, like I said, I've been in this kind of flow. I'm getting into the flow of this exploration and this journey that I'm currently on. But I haven't really stopped and thought about how far I've come. I've not done this myself for at least a good 6 months. And I say to people to do this all the time, to spend some time reflecting on how far you've come and the journey that you've taken and how much you've changed. But I've kind of forgotten to do it to myself. And so when I was thinking about this experience that I just had, I was thinking, what changed? Like, what was that switch that got me from that shy girl to this curious girl? Having spent some time thinking on this, and I still don't know if it's the correct answer or if it's just the state of mind that I'm in right now. But for me, I believe that the switch was understanding that we really don't have all the answers. And what I mean by that is, before, I would have made up this story in my mind that I wasn't good enough, or that the casting directors wouldn't want me in their show, or that I didn't look like the other people that were applying for this work. I would make up all of these stories in my head. But what I learned over time is that they were my story. They were my ideas and they were my beliefs. They were not necessarily facts. And actually, I was assuming that these people would treat me in a certain way. I wasn't giving them the benefit of the doubt. I had never met these people, and yet I was making up this story in my head that they would be really bitchy and arrogant and nasty, and that they would make it really, really difficult and challenging for me and a very painful experience for me. But I don't know these people. I've never met them in my life. And when I realized when I realized what I was doing, that I was in some ways dishonoring their personality and characteristics and not giving them a chance, my whole thought process changed. I realized that I actually have to go into these experiences completely open-minded. And the worst case scenario is that I just get denied or rejected. Now, this is something that I used to really struggle with as well in the past, rejection and denial. You know, the thought of asking out the boy that you fancy on a date, or telling them that you fancy them, or that you think they're good looking, or having the courage to flirt with someone. I would never do this because I was always so afraid of rejection. Because rejection to me meant looking like a fool. And so for that reason, I would never ever ask the question, which means I never knew what the answer would be. Because that's impossible, you know? If I would never tell someone that I liked them, or if I would never ask someone out on the date, then how could I ever know whether they liked me or not? I didn't. I just assumed that they did. I made up the story in my head. I didn't ask them. And so having this switch of changing to this open mindset of thinking, okay, I'm not going to just assume what these people are going to do or say. I'm not just going to assume what the outcome is. I'm going to stop going by the stories that I'm making up in my head, and I'm going to start living by facts. And if I want to live by facts, then I have to take action. I have to apply for the job, because if I don't, then I will never know, and it will just be a story in my head. So I think this mindset is what has enabled me to actually start taking the steps required to start taking action on my goals and my ambitions. This open mindset of what will be, will be. If it works, it works. If it fails, it fails. But at least let's give it a go, and at least let's get an actual answer that is factual and not just made up in my head. Let's at least give this situation the benefit of the doubt, and then we will deal with whatever comes from that. Now, of course, you know, this might be a completely different subject if I was saying that I had applied for this job and I had been denied. You know, I'm sure you're probably thinking, okay, Emma, well, they said yes, so sure you're fine, like sure you're speaking positively. So how would this be different if I had been denied? Well, I am not going to lie. Of course, I would have been a little bit disappointed. And yes, I probably would have had some thoughts thinking I'm not good enough. I'm not worthy enough. I'm ugly, something like this. Because we cannot control our thoughts. We cannot control what comes into our head. And we've all experienced it when we've had really negative thoughts about ourselves, about our relationships, about our friends, about the kids. I don't have kids, but I've had friends that have told me about the thoughts that they've had about their kids. And they don't want these thoughts. We don't want these thoughts. We don't ask for these thoughts to come in. They just come in. And a lot of people feel guilt around this, but you have to understand that we do not control our thoughts. We do not control what comes into our minds. What we do control is what we choose to believe. So at this point, if I was having thoughts coming into my head of, I'm too ugly, I look like an idiot, I will never be able to be an extra or an actress, it's my choice whether I believe those thoughts or whether I let those thoughts come in and then go. Before, when I was younger, I would have never challenged those thoughts. I would have had them and believed them, and that was it. And they would stick with me like glue until something else happened that would make me change that belief. But if nothing happened to make that change, then I would stick with that belief, and that could stick with me for years and years and years. Now that I understand more about how the mind works, I challenge the thoughts that come into my head. So when I get denied or rejected from something and I start having these negative thoughts flood in, I sit with them and I challenge them and I choose whether I want to believe them or not. And if it's a negative thought, I have made a vow to myself to never believe these thoughts ever again. There is always a reason why something has happened, why you have been rejected. Perhaps if you asked the really good looking guy out on a date and he said no, perhaps it's got nothing to do with you. Maybe he's not even attracted to women. Maybe he's already got a girlfriend. Maybe he's just come out of a really awful relationship and has decided that he wants to be single for some time. He doesn't owe you an explanation, and so he probably won't give you one. He will just say no. But then it's how you perceive that no, and it's what you decide that you want to believe about yourself. And then the same with the opportunity, with the acting and experiences, or a job maybe that you've applied for, you get rejected from that. Maybe it's not you. Maybe there just happened to be an absolutely incredibly talented person who just fit the role dead on, who also applied for the job. And of course they were going to get it because they were a perfect exact fit. Maybe you were near, but this person just had that little something a little bit better. Does that mean that you're worthless? That you are not valued, that you're never ever going to make it in life and that you should never apply for these kind of things ever again? Absolutely not. But perhaps this time wasn't your time. And that's really all it is, It may seem like I'm making it sound really simple, but you know what? It actually is. It really is. Sure, it takes practice and consistency to develop this kind of mindset. I didn't just wake up one day and say, right, I'm going to be open. I am going to be curious and adventurous, and I'm never, ever going to feel anxiety or low confidence ever again. No, I didn't do that. If only, hey. It takes practice. It takes consistency. And as I always say, the desire to change has to be stronger than the desire to stay the same. If you do not have a strong desire to change, if you are not passionate about working on your self-confidence, working on your self-doubt, learning how to embrace fear, stepping outside of your comfort zone, then chances are you never will do it. There has to be that driving force behind you that gets you to take action and put in the work. And if you do, then yes, absolutely, you can change your mindset. And the thing is, it may seem like hard work, it may seem like a long time, a lot of effort. But once you've mastered your mind, once you've learned how to be able to regulate yourself, that shit stays with you for life. You will always know what to do. You will always be in control. So it really is an incredible thing, and it really is beneficial to get started on that self-development journey because you can never look back from it ever. So just to summarize, this really is the key turning point. It's learning to live by fact and not by fear. It's learning to take action regardless of the outcome and to only be affected by the outcome in a way that you choose to be affected. So for anyone out there who has resonated with the girl that I used to be, blushing, anxious, low confident, feeling worthless, shy, not able to speak up, hating herself for not taking opportunities and being more adventurous, let me tell you now, you don't have to stay this way. You can change. If you want to. And that's key. If you want to. It really is all about the mastery of the mind and learning how to regulate yourself and become the master of your own mind. So if you've got to a point in your life where you're thinking, I want to start living with more confidence, being more courageous, stepping outside of my comfort zone, stepping up to challenge, doing more exciting and fun things with my life, and you don't know where to get started, well, that's what I'm here for. That's what I coach in. It's what I do. And I'm really passionate about it because, like I say, I've been there. I have been there. And I may have been younger, but I know women who are in their 30s, 40s, 50s who still struggle with this and have never been able to get out of that safety zone. It's never too late. There's always a time to be able to change things and rewrite your future, but you have to want to do it, and that is key. I do have another filming day coming up on Thursday. I reached out and I asked if they had any more work, and I've got a day on Thursday, so I'm sure I will update you on that one and any more to come. Like I say, I'm also moving to Bangkok at the end of the month, so I'm moving again, and I think to me it feels like it's going to be similar to when I moved from the UK. It's that whole kind of starting from scratch again, not knowing the environment, not having any friends close by, trying to figure it all out again. And I have no idea what's going to happen or how this is going to go, but it's happening at the end of the month. So again, you will hear from me all about that. I will share my journey with you as I always do. And hopefully, it will be an exciting one. All right. Well, thank you so much for tuning in again with me. Remember, you can always leave me a feedback review on this episode. You can just comment below. The reviews really do help me reach more people. The more reviews that are left, the higher up the rankings it goes. And so the more people who see this podcast, which means I can help more people. So it really does help. But also I really like to be able to connect with the people that I'm sharing my podcast with. So I would love to hear from you. You can come over to my social page on Instagram, Em.Powercoaching. I post on there quite regularly, maybe 4 or 5 times a week, and I do lives on there. If you fancy coming over and saying hi or just coming over and stalking me, that's fine as well. That's absolutely okay. I welcome you. All of the links are, of course, in the show notes, so feel free to hop on down and get the links from there. But for now, I'm going to wrap up and leave you with a quote that I think is really great for times when you're feeling like you really, really want to do something, but the fear is just taking over too much. And this is by Dr. Pepper, and it's "What's the worst that could happen?" Love that quote. And you can even sing it in your head, so it really, really sticks, All right, I'm going to leave it there. Thank you very much for listening, and I will check in with you again next week. Bye-bye.